So what we think will work is we have a 3-phase plan for each of our flips. When we acquire the furniture, we attempt to have them fall into one of the 3 phases for our channel.
Phase 1 is where we basically just do minute details, such as fixing it up, maybe adding a screw here, screw there, and cleaning it up, and then just immediately staging it, posting it, and selling it.
Spending as little time as possible on the piece of furniture.
Yes, and we know and have learned from other people and their channels that it's important to stage when you're taking photographs of the furniture. So that is going to be in each of our phases. No matter what we're posting, we're going to be making sure that our photographs look presentable so that the furniture looks like it could be a piece of someone's home, or a piece in someone's home, I should say. And yeah, so we're hoping that by having the skills of the photography added with our newbie and as we go learning experience of this furniture flipping, we'll be able to become better at it as we go.
Phase 2 involves when the furniture just cannot be cleaned. It needs major patchwork, it needs major repairs, and it most definitely needs to have new staining or a new paint job itself. Phase 2 will involve a lot more work, a lot of sanding, a lot of cleaning, a lot of repairing, and that is where we're hoping that by recycling or upcycling this furniture, we can make the biggest profit for our flips. And finally, for phase 3, it's for the furniture we just cannot get out of our door. We've attempted to flip, we have attempted to repair and repaint or restain, and we still are unable to sell the furniture as quickly as we would like it to sell. Or we simply just want a fancy project to work on. In phase 3, we're going to hope to try to customize pieces of furniture, add a sort of theme to them, or a sort of unique style in which someone would pay top dollar to be able to acquire such furniture.
Yep, so this is where not only is it going to need a paint job or a stain and some fixing up, but we might totally revamp the piece of furniture. So it will basically look unrecognizable as what it originally was. So basically phase 3 is a complete transformation. Oh, this piece.
So we have a large laminate desk. It cannot get any cheaper than this. Underneath the laminate is just particle board, and funny enough, we've had this for quite a while as well. We've attempted to sell this in a phase 1, but we had not received any good offers on this at all, just crickets in the wind.
Yeah, this piece has been a headache for us for sure. I believe that it possibly could have a little bit of potential as far as just let's get it out the door so that we can make just a little bit of cash back on it. Yeah, we've got it for free, but we've put a lot of time and effort into this piece, so I am just ready to get it out the door.
I had the unfortunate circumstance of breaking this piece, and because of my mistake, we've had to hold on to this piece of furniture for a lot longer. But I have a clear vision on what we can do to make this piece sell for a good profit. Hoping.
Yeah.
So this large laminate desk was given to us for free, and right now I am sanding with a 100 grit sandpaper on our random orbital sander, and I am sanding off the screw holes for the keyboard that did not come with the large laminate desk. So it takes me a bit to get the parts that were broken or the parts that I had to glue on, to get sanded smooth. Also, the door and parts of the siding had also their laminate coming loose, and I had to try to sand that down smooth. Now, one big problem with sanding laminate is that even if you use chalk paint or primer, the paint can still easily come off. Now, we're about to see my mistake with this piece of the hutch, and I should have been a lot more careful with it, and I broke it. It may not look like a big break, but a lot more other pieces on this hutch were broken than just the one you see there. So that took some time to glue, to fix, maybe more time than anyone else would probably dedicate doing that. As you can see, I just used simple wood glue, and some of the paper towel got stuck on there because I didn't want our vice grips to get stuck. This is showing that some of the parts are smooth. So now we're going to spray paint, and what I'm spraying this down with is a simple white primer. I believe it's the 123 primer, and it goes on really well. And for this first project, I was actually quite pleased on how it looked once I just sprayed it with one coat. And I was unsure at the time if I needed to do more coats or not, because it gave this slight brown look to it that I really enjoyed and I thought was unique as a type of accent. But I most definitely would advise you put on a lot more coats of paint and not just one if you're deciding to flip furniture, for sure. It does look nice, I do admit, but you probably get the same results if you did a type of paint that had some sort of shimmer mixed in with it, or a pearl. I probably was just extremely excited that my first job at spray painting, it looked like I got some pretty even coats. Now, the hutch did not have a back, so what I ended up doing was buying some hard pressed board, and we're going to be using bullseye shellac. What I was worried about is painting this hard pressed cardboard and it expanding, because I use water-based paint. I looked it up online, and whenever you want to treat MDF or particle board and you're worried about it expanding for whatever flipping project you want to do, you can use shellac to keep it from doing that. It is a type of sealer that helps keep any additional moisture out of the project that you're working with. I wanted to see how well that worked, and I am using a paint roller to put this shellac onto the hard pressed cardboard. I could not get more pieces that were larger, so I had to get 3 pieces and ended up putting all 3 of those pieces together to make the back board for the hutch. Now, the problem, or the interesting thing about using the shellac, is that it completely ruined this roller. I tried to use mineral spirits to clean the roller as well as the bin, and I don't know what sort of chemical reaction happened to it, but it did not enjoy that little combination. And mind you, I did not let this dry. Right after using it, I took it straight away and put mineral spirits in it, and then tried to clean it with Dawn soap and water, and it just didn't come out. I find that if you are going to try to clean off any type of shellac or lacquer or even polycrylic, reacts better just using soap and water. So we're going to use Rust-Oleum's Aged Gray on the hard-pressed cardboard, the back wall for the hutch. And what we're going to go for is a design that I saw on the internet of a desk that had black desktops and had a white body, but the back wall for the hutch was gray. And I thought that was very unique. And I thought if a manufacturer was selling that online, we could replicate that with our own unique style. So it was really windy that day. It was a bit difficult to paint, but it ended up going along quite nicely. And the shellac for sure was a good sealer for this particle board. What was interesting during this time is I ended up only buying 2 pieces of this particle board at first, thinking that was enough. And I purchased this at Home Depot, but I am sure you can get this at Lowe's. And after I did the measurements and found out I didn't have enough or wasn't going to look good on the desk, I ended up buying a 3rd piece, and the price difference was extreme. And I would just say that if during these times, if you're going to be buying any sort of wood, make sure you get it all in one go for the particular project you're going for, or you're going to notice a for sure price difference once you go back to the store the next day. So this is a nice close-up of what the paint looks like. And as you can see, the roller pin did leave some fibers behind. That's because of whatever the weird reaction was going on with the shellac and mineral spirits. And you can see it's just looking ruined. But everything else has been spray painted and it looks really good. And that was just a comparison of the white versus the gray. Now the desktops, we're going to actually use the Rust-Oleum's chalk paint, but it'll be charcoal. Didn't want to go for a full black on this desktop, and this charcoal color was something that we felt would match very well with the rest of the table theme. Yes, I am still using the same roller and the same tray, and I am having trouble keeping the desktop from slipping and falling down, trying not to break any of the holding pins that are still clearly in the back of the table. The roller pin wasn't leaving as many fibers as it was on the hard pressed cardboard, but I still had issues with getting enough paint on there and getting it down smoothly. So I would advise, if you're going to be doing a job like this, that you use multiple roller pins, but this made it a lot quicker. And I didn't want to spray paint the desktop because I wanted to make sure that it was going to go on smoothly, and I was still new at using the spray paint. What I used to seal the sides of the desk was this bare wax finish, and I have the cheesecloth, and we're going to just spread a layer of this onto all the sides, all the drawers and the shelves, so that way it helps coat and protect the one coat of paint that we put on this desk. On the desktop, we did put more than one coat of paint, but for the sides and the shelves, it was only one coat of paint. I would advise that you at least put 3 coats of paint, whether that's a primer and then 2 coats of top, 2 coats of the paint that you're wanting, along with the top coat finish. That seems to be the best for protecting from scratches and from damage. So what I'm doing is just getting a bit of the wax and spreading it all over the side, and then as it dries, I go back over with the cheesecloth and wipe it, so that way it gets a nice smooth finish. I do the same thing for the back wall for the hutch with this hard pressed cardboard, and the color does change slightly, but once the wax dries, it does become nice and hard, and the color is restored to that aged gray. And this is a nice comparison of the colors between the aged gray and the charcoal paint. So now that I've finished painting and getting the wax finish, what we're going to actually do for the desktop as well as the top of the hutch is we're going to be using a Minwax polycrylic protective finish. And we're going to do this in clear satin because we didn't want to use a very glossy feel to the desktop. That would have allowed scratches to be more noticeable for anyone that uses it in the future. At least that was the premise. So I am using this type of sponge brush to put on this polycrylic, but I would highly recommend that if you are going to use any type of brushing, that it's a small surface where you can get a clear full stroke of the brush from one end of the surface to the other. Because after I finish with this desk, I put 2 more coats of this polycrylic on the desktop, and you can still see lines afterwards. And I followed the instructions. It says after the first coat, lightly sand. But even doing that still showed lines because of these brush strokes. I do like using the water-based polycrylic, and the reason we use that is because if you use an oil-based polyurethane on any sort of white water-based paint, or lighter paint, it can change its color. So we used a water-based polycrylic. So after 3 coats of the polycrylic, it ends up with that nice satin shine despite the obvious strokes that we can see from the sponge brush. And I would recommend maybe not using the sponge brush because it really tore it up, and it's best to use a natural fiber brush when putting on this. Oh, and keep in mind, make sure your paint has dried. I apparently did not wait long enough for the second and third coat to dry on the desktop, and some of the paint came off as I was putting on the top coat, as well as it tainted part of the can with that black charcoal chalk paint. This is me now cutting the hard-pressed cardboard with a simple saw. And I was unsure of how smooth and clean the cut was going to be, so I just used some painter's tape to hold down the board, so that way as I'm cutting along the paint line, there wasn't going to be jagged or ripped edges because of the saw blade. But I tried this later without using the tape on an inconspicuous part, and there wasn't any real issue. So I just was being overly cautious with the tape. Now we're doing the handle pieces, and we're using a polyurethane semi-gloss. And this is still the charcoal chalk paint from Rust-Oleum, and the polyurethane is still a water base. And we wanted to try out a different top coat to see how well it protects, especially with the hardware. And this got 3 coats as well, waiting for each coat to dry as the instructions say on the can. So to recap, this is what the large laminate desk looked like when we were trying to sell it as a phase 1. And you can see a bunch of scratches, bunch of wear and tear, and didn't really look that good of a color. And now this is what the end product looks like, with the gray, aged gray Hutch back wall and the primer white on the sides and the shelving, as well as the black desktop. We even found this chair to go along with the desk to try to sell it as a set. It still looks really good. The polyacrylic still made this look really great, and we were able to sell this desk for $125. It took us about 2 weeks for us to finally sell this set, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know what you think.